This Old House Radio Hour is supported by the Home Depot. Whether you're tackling a kitchen upgrade, organizing your garage, or building out that back deck, it's important to keep your projects on track. Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes it easy to keep things moving in the right direction. If you're just starting out or you're stuck in the middle, the Home Depot has same-day and next-day delivery, so you can get what you need fast. Maybe you need a tool, more materials, some extra paint and supplies, or a battery to power your way through that project. Whatever you're working on, get fast, free delivery from the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability. From LAist and APM, American Public Media, it's This Old House Radio Hour. I'm your host, Jen Largis. On today's show, make your home work for every stage of life with aging in place expert Rick Castino.
The more you learn in advance, the more you'll be ready. It should be a part of anyone's retirement plan.
Third Eye Blind's Stephan Jenkins trades the headlining tour for Restoration, transforming a San Francisco Victorian into a masterpiece.
You know, I think a good house should last, and therefore we don't really own it as much as we are stewards of it, and we want to respect it and carry it forward.
Gas or induction ranges. We weigh the pros and cons with Ross Trethui, a building engineer for This Old House. All of this, plus we're answering your home improvement questions at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Coming up right after the news. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. More people are choosing to grow older right where they are, at home. Rick Castino from Operation Independence has 25 years of experience helping people age in their homes. He joins us to share practical ways to make a home safer and easier for growing old. Rick, welcome to This Old House Radio Hour.
Hi, Jen. Nice to be with you.
You know, I read somewhere that the aging population, there is a reported 78% of baby boomers nationwide that are planning to stay in place if possible. What should people in our audience do to make sure that they can age in place?
Well, the first thing that I often suggest is learning about home modifications, getting educated on what you can do to stay in your own home. And that usually means modifying because, especially in New England, you have a lot of steps. You have doors that are very narrow if in case someone has use of a wheelchair. So understanding the basics, and that's what I recommend most people do, is reading about it, go online, study it. There are rehab hospitals, facilities that are pretty well versed in guiding people as to what they should consider. Seek out councils on aging, for example, in your local town. They often have advice on who to talk to and resources for where you can go to learn more about what you can do. It is unfortunate, though, that many of my clients wait to the last minute.
Mm-hmm. And for people who are currently aging in place, what's something that they could consider doing at this moment that might help them in the long run?
Start with your path of travel, how you get into your house. Going up the steps, are you reaching for a handrail that's not there? Mm-hmm. When you get into the house, path of travel through the house. The bathroom, for example, when you enter your shower or bathtub, do you tend to reach for a wall to support yourself? You know, that might be a good place for a grab bar. Go through all the moves, and if you find yourself feeling difficulty doing any of those things, there's a point where you should concentrate on learning about how to improve that place.
Do you follow a rule of thumb, knowing when it's time to start making these modifications in your home?
You know, I think most of my clients fall into two categories. They are either being proactive because they know that at some point they're going to want to do something in their home, or reactive. So it tends to take different avenues. Proactive, you can plan ahead. And the rule of thumb is once you understand the general concepts and what you can do, and you want to do something, start to find out people that can help you do that. Contractors, consultants. If somebody is being reactive, meaning they've had a fall, they should jump right in. The rule of thumb is get someone who can help you, who knows what they're doing.
Besides the width of a doorway, what are some other major points that usually need attention?
I usually start with the entryways and the exits of a house. If you have many steps and they're becoming difficult to get up, There are modifications to address that. For example, you can put in a simple ramp to get up to your entry level of the house. You can put in a stair chair. They do make exterior stair chairs. They have little mini elevators. They call them vertical platform lifts, which can be attached to an existing porch. So I go through the entryways and the exits first. Then usually, depending on the needs of a particular homeowner, the bathroom is a focal point. That's where there's a lot of risk of fall. I've seen many of my clients have a fall there because they're getting in a tub and they can't, maneuver that. So converting a tub into a threshold-free or roll-in shower is a great modification. And that takes care of any need that a homeowner may have, whether they're having trouble right now walking into the bathing area, or if they eventually end up, or a family member ends up in a wheelchair. You roll in, there's no obstacle there. And then outside of that, there are many other things you can do. There are kitchen modifications that can be made. Countertop height is one. For example, someone is in a wheelchair, either a family member or the principal homeowner, being able to access counter space while you're sitting. There are cabinets, for example, that can be pulled down to access shelving that's at a higher place where one normally sitting cannot access. Dishwashers that are a little higher. Stovetops that have controls on the front rather than in the back. So you're not reaching over a hot space.
Now, the price tag for some of these services, like you mentioned, an elevator or bathroom redesign, can be extensive. Do you have any advice for listeners trying to navigate maybe that sticker shock?
Save your money. No. I think that the more you learn in advance and you pick up cost estimates, the more you'll be ready and you can plan. I think it should be a part of anyone's retirement plan is how much money do I need to put into my house if I want to stay here? There's some real inexpensive, simple modifications from a grab bar, which is, $75, $100, to a full-fledged 2-story, 3-story elevator, which can go into the hundreds of thousands. So, yeah, plan for the expense.
A lot of these things are also preventative. So when you're installing grab bars, you're hopefully helping mitigate the risk for a fall that then would lead to more extensive need for modifications.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Are there any certifications or resources that people could use when they go looking for guidance on these things to know that someone is qualified to give them good advice?
Yeah. If a contractor has certified aging in place or CAPS certification, that gives a contractor the knowledge for home modifications, because it's a specialty field in a way. Starting with that, the National Association of Home Builders or the National Association of Remodelers oftentimes have lists of local contractors who can help. Important to get someone with some experience.
Well, this is fantastic information, and we're so thankful to be sharing this, and we're thankful that you took the time to speak with us today.
Well, thank you.
That was Rick Castino. For more helpful information about how to age in your home, visit our website, www.thisoldhouse.com. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Right now, we're tackling your DIY and home improvement questions. Call us now at 877-864-7460, and we'll match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour with Heath Eastman, electrician for This Old House, and Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show.
Yes, hi. I'm Rick Martin calling from Essex, Vermont.
Hey, Rick, Zach Detmore here.
Hi there.
Hey, Rick, it's Heath. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great, thanks.
So tell us what's going on with your house.
We've got a gas fireplace, which, has a pilot light. You can light the pilot light with a little clicker switch like you would a gas grill. And it has a switch built into the gas fireplace, but it's also connected to a wall switch. And the wall switch connects to the fireplace just using thermostat wire. So it's not actually, hardwired into the house at all. And so I've noticed every winter when I want to, turn it on every now and then, it's not really something we use to heat the house. It's just for atmosphere. But the wall switch, it stops working. And I've replaced it now twice. If I take the cover plate off and I pull the switch out of the wall and I tap it with a screwdriver, it works. And when I put a brand new switch in, it works just fine. But this one is at least a year old, and I've got to tap it with the screwdriver once it's on, and then it does turn on the fireplace. And I'm wondering if the low voltage wire doesn't like using a regular switch, if there's some kind of compatibility issue there.
Well, I definitely don't think it's normal operating procedure to have to tap it with a screwdriver to make it work.
Right.
I was going to say, I wouldn't try that.
It kind of sounds like, like the old truck, you got to hit the alternator or the starter with a hammer to get it to turn on.
And beat the starter to get it to turn.
Yeah, exactly. It's a throwback.
Yeah, except it's a brand new fireplace. Well, not brand new, but it's only 7-8 years old. So
failing switch. I don't know. What do you think, Zach? Moisture? It's weird that it would that quick.
I don't know. I mean, isn't there a standard switch? Isn't it a physical, mechanical connection that tapping it or moving it shouldn't, I feel like it shouldn't affect the mechanism.
You wouldn't think. Yeah.
It seems like it could be a, that would affect maybe the conductor being connected to the switch.
Yeah. I mean,
that's fairly easy to see.
The basic switch, and even a standard one is still rated for 120 volts that we're installing in a house. So there's no issue with controlling, the 24 volts or less for the gas stove. Yeah.
Right.
Is it acceptable to use a larger switch that's rated for that for smaller capacities like this? You can go up and it doesn't affect anything?
Yeah, you could always go up. You never want to go backwards. But I mean, there are versions that are heavy duty. I mean, you could do that, but I've never seen it have to be done. I'm more curious why it's failing consistently.
When we bought the house, it's the switch that was there when we bought the house stopped working, so I replaced it. So this is now the third switch. And I know from past experience, if I just totally disconnect the switch and just touch the wires, the fireplace comes on just like that. So that tells me it's not the wire or the connection under the fireplace. That tells me it's something. And like I said, when I tap the switch, turn it on, nothing happens. Tap it, fireplace comes on. I'm buying brand new switches. I'm not finding them in the garbage. So
I was going to say, where are you buying the switches?
Yeah, I was saying, where are these switches coming from?
I want to make sure I avoid that store.
I didn't know if the low voltage part was an issue in terms of because it is just it's just a millivolt, right, or whatever you call those.
Depending on, it's hard to say on the system, but yeah, it's low voltage either way. Yeah,
right,
right. I do have one thought here. That a lot of times you can't see it. Thermostat wire is very small and a little more brittle than you think. So even when someone stripped it and bent the wires around the screw, nothing says there isn't a small break further down in the insulation. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
The wall somewhere.
Or not even inside the wall, but inside the box, a little further back. A lot of times it can be a small break. The second you take that switch out of the wall and wiggle it around, it makes a little bit of contact. That break is no longer broken. It's kind of touching in there. I have a hard time believing 3 switches failed on you running on low voltage. To me, it sounds like it's something else. Right. I would tend to think we'd maybe, if there's slack wire in there, if there's enough to do it, cut it back as much as you're comfortable doing, strip it up very gently, and then put it on a new, if you want to try a heavy-duty switch, give it a shot. I mean, it's not necessary, but it can't hurt, and try that. Right. My guess would be if you're rattling it around and it fires every time, there's probably a small break somewhere inside the insulation that you just can't see.
Right, and that wire is very small, so it's going to be easier for it to break or have just a small, whether it's a clean break or just a minor break, because it's very small to begin with.
Could be anything. If someone folded it over a couple too many times and it just slowly, loosened up. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. I can't picture 3 switches failing. Yeah, Rick, I think you just give that a shot. Yeah, I think cut that back and put on a heavier switch to make yourself feel a little better. Give that a shot, and I think you'll find that hopefully solves it.
Okay, I appreciate your help. Thank you.
All right, good luck. Thanks.
Bye.
After the break, our experts answer more of your home improvement and DIY questions. Call us at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Coming up on This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. Stay tuned. This Old House Radio Hour is supported by the Home Depot. Whether you're tackling a kitchen upgrade, organizing your garage, or building out that back deck, it's important to keep your projects on track. Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes it easy to keep things moving in the right direction. If you're just starting out or you're stuck in the middle, the Home Depot has same-day and next-day delivery, so you can get what you need fast. Maybe you need a tool, more materials, some extra paint and supplies, or a battery to power your way through that project. Whatever you're working on, get fast, free delivery from the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Before we get back to your calls, we're opening up the phone lines and playing House Rules. This is a game where we test your knowledge of common DIY and home improvement procedures. No lifelines, no second chances. Just you, your instincts, and a shot at glory. Hello, you're on House Rules.
Hi, this is Nathan Alakanich from Saline, Michigan.
Hi, Nathan. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Nathan, tell us, how handy are you around the house?
I think I'm pretty handy. I recently did a bathroom remodel on the first floor of my home.
I'd say that's more than handy. So here's how the game works. I'm going to ask 2 multiple-choice home improvement questions. If you miss the first one, the game is over.
Okay.
If you get it right, you get to move on to question 2.
Okay.
If you answer both correctly, you win the ultimate prize, a custom voicemail recording from This Old House's very own Richard Trethui. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, let's play House Rules. Here's your first question. Which one of these is an actual type of nail? Is it A, cut nail, B, whale nail, or C, ghost nail? Jason, what do you think?
Ghost nail.
To get the right answer, we asked Zach Detmore, a general contractor for the show, and this was his answer.
Hey, it's Zach Detmore, a contractor for the show. The correct answer was actually A cut nail. If you've ever worked in a very, very old house, you've definitely seen some cut nails, and what makes them different from wire nails is they're sort of triangular shape, meaning the tip is smaller, but it gets much wider towards the head.
Oh no, Nathan, I'm sorry. The correct answer was A, cut nail. That means the game ends here, but we thank you for playing House Rules.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If you want to play House Rules, call our hotline and ask us your home improvement or DIY question, and you'll be entered into a pool to play House Rules at 877-864-7460. Call now. That's 877-864-7460. You're listening to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Right now, we're tackling your DIY and home improvement questions. Call us now at 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. And we'll match you with the right expert. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, Jason. Mark McCullough here.
Hey, Mark.
What's up, Jason? Zach here.
Hi, Zach.
Go Dogs.
Yeah, I'm not a big sports ball guy, but I know they're popular here.
Yes, yes, popular up here as well.
So what's the story? What's going on with you, Jason?
We recently had to remodel our main bathroom, my wife and I, and we did everything ourselves. Tile on the shower, we redid the whole shower, everything, and the only thing we didn't do ourselves because I didn't know how was shower glass. And so we contracted out for that and had a glass installer install the shower glass. However, it turns out that the installer installed it incorrectly, and we started getting our door sagging. And so I contacted the installer, and he came out and reinstalled the glass, and everything is working fine now. The only thing I have a concern now is that there are holes in the tile that I so lovingly put up that they filled, but are kind of obvious to see. And I was hoping that there was a way I could sort of disguise those holes a little more. They've been filled, so I'm not concerned about it leaking through or anything like that, but you can just see them when you're in there taking a shower, and it's just very unsightly. So I was hoping there was a way I could sort of repair it or cover it up.
Excellent. Well, that's pretty ambitious, a bathroom renovation. Was that your first project you did?
No, we've been doing DIY projects for a long time. However, this was the biggest one.
Good for you. That's an ambitious project.
Sure is. Sure is.
So what color is this tile?
It's sort of like a marble look. It's mostly white. There are just some small lines of like the granite kind of or marble look where it's got the veins running through it. But for the most part, it's largely white tile.
So, Jason, today is your lucky day because
awesome.
The three people that you're talking to, I think we all look at construction the exact same way. We always want to do things correctly, but we're very concerned because I think the three of us are artsy people. One of the best options for you may be to just replace each of the tiles that has the hole. And
are they large tiles or small tiles?
Yeah, great question.
I neglected to mention they are large, so they are 12 by 24 inch tiles. So they are very large.
Okay, so
format tiles.
That's why we only use tiles that are 1 by 1 or smaller.
yeah,
this exact problem.
That's all I was talking about, Jason.
Material
so I'm out.
Choice.
I hate to tell you this, but now you're down to 2 of the 3.
Okay.
No, you just got to put on some classical music. You got to get out your artist brushes, and you got to improvise a little bit here. Yeah.
Yes.
What comes to mind for me, but I'm not going to tell you why I'm so familiar with this, but you can get this kit online for very inexpensive, and it's basically a part A and B for epoxy countertop repair, meant for stone, and it comes with 3 or 5 pigments that you can mix in. There's a black, a gray, a white, a yellow, and let's just say it's gotten me out of some sticky situations over the years.
There you go, Zach.
And the difficulty with it is typically it has to be it's like a knife grade, meaning you take A and B, they're very gelatinous, think like Vaseline, and then you mix them together, and you can add pigment, but typically you're getting a solid color. So if there's veins running through, you might need to do this sort of in layers and build out. But hey, you already renovated a whole bathroom. All you got to do is fill a hole.
Right.
I think you've got the patience for this.
Should be easy. How big are the holes, Jason?
They're not very big. They're maybe, I think, like an 1/8 of an inch, or maybe a little bit bigger than that. So they're not very big. So if the 2-part epoxy, is there a particular type or kind? I'm not sure. I haven't really done any sort of countertop epoxy repair kind of like that. So I don't know if there's multiple types or kinds that I need to be using.
Not necessarily. Honestly, I would just buy a kit. They're all doing the same thing. They're formulated for stone. It shouldn't matter. And this is not a repair of consequence, meaning like you're not trying to hold the seam of your countertop together at the sink. It's just filling. So the only mistake you're probably going to make is not mixing it enough so that it doesn't cure. So just as long as you follow the instructions, the only thing that you may not be able to follow is they typically want you to sort of rough up the surface. But if it's a tile, you're not going to do that.
Zach, I have one question that goes kind of in conjunction with that.
Yeah.
What would you do? An overfill and then sand that down, or how does that work?
Typically, the way it works is I would apply it maybe a little heavy, and then as it's starting to cure, I'll take a razor blade and start shaving off the excess. And hopefully, if the tile's polished, it's not going to bind to the smooth surface. So you're actually just going to shave it so it's dead flat.
Okay.
Another solution would be just go ahead and fire maybe a half dozen Legos into the shower pan. Yeah. And every time you walk in, you're going to step on one.
That's what I was going to do.
And that hole is going to be the least of your concern.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You won't even notice the holes.
Thank you, gentlemen and lady. I appreciate the input.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
See you later, Jason.
Right. Thank you, everyone.
Call us now to have your home improvement or DIY question answered. 877-864-7460. That's 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour.
Hey, this is Nay Sully from Lancaster, South Carolina.
Hey, Nay, how's it going?
Hi, Nay. What's going on with your house?
Well, we moved in September, and we decided to create a bar downstairs, and we put a butcher block type top on top, but we don't know how to refinish it. My son had said to use some type of, he said he put linseed oil on his But when I looked into it, when I read about it, it said not to do that if you're going to put food on it. And I just seen some controversy on different things that I had read. And I thought, gosh, I just don't know what to do.
I think we can help.
Any suggestions?
Yeah. So I had a butcher block countertop in my last house and in this house. You can put food on any finished countertop. It's really when you're cutting directly on it that you want it to be food safe.
Right.
And what about linseed oil or other cooking oils wouldn't be food safe? Do they go rancid or are they?
I think it's the drying agents in boiled linseed oil that makes it not safe. And it can leave like a sticky residue potentially. So things like mineral oil, walnut oil, tung oil are typically food safe. But there's this one that's a combination of beeswax and mineral oil that I just love. I don't know why. I think it's probably not different, but it just makes me feel so good inside putting beeswax on the wood. It has a little bit of a sheen to it, and you just kind of put it over the surface, let it absorb, wipe away the excess. You can do it a couple times and then just sort of maintain it. But it's bulletproof. It won't keep you from getting serious stains, but it's great and it's super easy to maintain. And if you ever want to resand it, it's just very easy. Just sand the area, touch it up, and you're off to the races again. So that's what I would do.
Why would somebody want to avoid something like a harder surface? Like, I don't know, I've seen people do polyurethane or varnish or things like that. Why would you want to avoid options like that?
I think the theory is really that varnish or polyurethane is basically a plastic coating that's laying on top of the wood. And if you were to chop or cut directly on it, you'd be breaking up that plastic and it could be consumed. So these oils are really penetrating into the wood. But if you consumed mineral oil, for example, you'd be totally fine. So that's why oils are preferred rather than coating.
And I've heard the one with beeswax actually mixed in with mineral oil. It does have better water repellency, which seems like a positive for a countertop.
I don't know the exact brand, but I would say a lot of times it's referred to as butcher block oil. And if you just check the ingredients, you should see a combination of beeswax and mineral oil, and that's what you're going to want to get. But it's very readily available. Any hardware store should have this, or you could even purchase it on the internet. And one bottle typically gets you, years.
Is there anything special you have to do before you put it on to like sort of prep the countertop?
I mean, I usually just sand the whole thing, but that's because I have the tools to do it, but
just some light renovations.
Yeah. I mean, one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to sand with too high of a grit, because as you polish, you're sort of folding those fibers over, for lack of a better word. So the oil doesn't get impregnated into the surface as well. So basically just sand it with like probably no higher than 220 grit and you're good to go. Just wipe it on with a paper towel or a terry cloth.
And how often would you do something like this?
I mean, I'm guessing if it's a bar, it probably doesn't need it that frequently. So I would say, once a year would be plenty. But at first, you may want to do it over and over again.
Okay, great.
Nay, does that help answer your question?
It does, very much so. Thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
Call us now at 877-864-7460. 877-864-7460. Hello, you're on This Old House Radio Hour with home engineer Ross Trethewey and general contractor Charlie Silva.
Hi, my name is Pete. I'm calling from the Bay Area in California. The situation is we have a house. It's a tri-level house, and it's got two separate HVAC systems. So it's got a heater and an AC for downstairs, a heater and AC for upstairs. And the problem is that there's a big central staircase, and so in the summer all the hot air rushes upstairs, the upstairs gets hot, and the upstairs AC can't handle it doesn't have enough oomph to handle the cooling. Same thing in the winter, the downstairs furnace runs, all the heat runs upstairs, the upstairs get really hot, and the upstairs furnace doesn't run.
The bummer of having an open staircase.
So I thought, I could fix this by just installing a bigger AC for upstairs, and it'll just run 2 units, but that seems like overkill, and I have this problem that where the condensers are outside, I don't have room physically for 2 big condensers. So I had this crazy idea, and I wanted to hear whether this makes sense, which was, could I install a single large condenser outside, and that could either be an AC, a conventional AC, or a heat pump. But while I'm at it, it might as well be a heat pump. And then I wanted to see if I could have that go to 2 air handler units, one upstairs, one downstairs, and I'll just reroute the chilled refrigerant or the hot refrigerant to the correct unit based on the time of year and where I need the heating. I haven't seen a product that does that, and none of the contractors I've talked to seem to know how that would work. And so I thought, well, let me ask this whole house and see what you guys think. Am I crazy, or does this make sense?
No, I think you're on the right track here. What you really want to do is run a load calculation.
Mm-hmm.
You want to figure out what is the actual load for your upstairs and what is the actual load for your downstairs. We call that a manual J. And so if you could run that load calculation, your installing contractor should do this and make this a prerequisite before you actually move forward with the project, because then you'll know you're putting in the right size unit. You've got to make sure that it's sized right, and you can't rely on the existing system to be sized right. Especially if the building's been improved over time, they put in better windows, better insulation, better air sealing. Things have changed from that when that system was originally put in. You need to account for that with a new load calculation.
That's right. And then sometimes, do you have to update your ductwork at all? Maybe it's not even sized properly, correct?
Yeah, we've seen that a lot. That's a great point. Where we've updated or have heard that contractors have gone in, updated to heat pumps, but they're reusing the existing ductwork that wasn't sized appropriately from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So it's like putting in a Hemi engine into a small little Pinto. It's just like you've got this horsepower, you got the heat pump size right, you got this horsepower there, but you now have this issue with getting the heat distributed through the ductwork. In our technical engineering world, we call that thermal constipation. Yeah.
Are you making fun of my Pinto?
I love your Pinto.
Yeah, we had one contractor come in and say, "Oh dear, you definitely need to upgrade the attic ductwork and move some of the registers." So he was actually onto something and not just blowing smoke.
Yeah. You can test the ductwork before you do anything. You can test the static pressure. You can test the air sealing, how tight the ductwork is, and you can test the airflow.
Okay.
And how good was the ductwork insulated, if at all? It was 98, it should be, right? But if it's sitting in an attic that's 130 degrees.
Yeah, if it's outside the conditioned space.
So the ductwork's in the attic, I get that. Where is the air handler? Is that also in the attic?
The upstairs one is in the attic, yes.
So you have an air handler that's working at 130 degrees sometimes.
I do.
How tall is your attic from the floor to the ridge?
I can stand up in it, so somewhere between 6 and 8 feet.
A lot of times what I'll do is I will actually, if I'm forced to put it up into an attic unit that's in the temperatures and more of a swing where we live in Mass, but I'll build a controlled room for the air handler to live in, and I also spray isonine over all of my ductwork, not around where there might be a zone damper, but I thermally protect even better than sometimes what the standard ductwork insulation might be.
Oh, okay.
Well, Pete, do you feel like we are pointing you in the right direction here with this advice?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thanks very much.
We're so thankful that you called in. After the break, gas or induction? We weigh the pros and cons with Ross Trethewey, a building engineer for This Old House. That's coming up on This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Coming up, gas or induction? We weigh the pros and cons for your next kitchen range. But first, we head to San Francisco, where Third Eye Blind frontman Stephan Jenkins has spent the past 12 years transforming an 1880s Italianate Victorian.
I'm Stephan Jenkins. I'm a musician, and this is my old house. I spent a couple months now living in this new house that I bought, this new old house that I bought, trying to figure out what is the through line of this house that can run through it so it feels cohesive. Built in 1896, this house is kind of Georgian revival, at least it looks that way from the outside, so it has this structural kind of element to it. But then there's the wood inside and these box beam coffered ceilings and these big staircases with lots of stained glass, and these are all kinds of ideas that move into this Edwardian Belle Art Nouveau sets of ideas. Then you walk up the stairs and there are an Italianate mosaic on the veranda as you walk in. And there's this idea with the Edwardians that outdoor space and leisure was something that people wanted to present. And then there's this big cantilevered sunroom, sort of off a breakfast area. So I don't believe that the people who made this house really knew what they were doing. And I didn't really realize that until I lived in it for a minute, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to get something into focus, and it's still not into focus. And what I think is going to happen is, by taking the things out that are completely out of alignment with the house, for example, painting over beautiful old oak and mahogany in the parlor, it is kind of like cleaning up a crime scene as far as I'm concerned. But I believe fundamentally, when you move into a house and you want to renovate it, you want to bring it back into a state of aliveness that resonates with you, I think you have to go down to the intentions and the mindset of the architects who built it, when they built it, and what they had in mind. There are things in it that resonate magnificently with you because you just spent all of your earthly treasure buying it. Those are the important starting places. So for me, respecting the wood, that is an idea of the Edwardians and the arts and crafts that was different from Victorian architecture, where they wanted to have all of this faff on everything, which was great. I love Victorians. But this is saying a connection to the outdoors, respect for the wood, and there is a simplicity and elegance. Okay, now there's an entrance point that begins to resonate with me, and if I can't find an absolute through line, maybe you can find the points of design that punch through, that speak to you. The current status of my renovation consists mostly of me staring at it. And I fold my arms and I look at the angles, and then I walk away with nothing having happened. And then I come back and I do it again. And in doing these things enough times, which seems like you don't know what you're doing, that's not true. What you're doing is you are allowing sense and sensibility to come to you. So don't be afraid to just go out and just stare at it. That is part of the creative process. And it's another one of the luxuries that you have living in your house while renovating it. So live in your house, deal with the mess, pay attention to the light, and you will be eligible for the beginning process of design. You're going to see the rooms that you want to be drawn to. And the answer to that will be the kitchen, because there's a moment where people are around and they are talking, dancing, drinking, and the food is not ready yet, but there's anticipation of it. That is a moment to be cultivated. That is kind of the hearth moment. I think in our society, there's no other room that does that. Just ask yourself, when's the last party that I threw or went to that didn't end up in the kitchen, talking, drinking, and dancing? It took a lot of time going into the parlor, trying to understand what happens in there when you're talking about a story. What am I doing in this space and optimism. It's about forward thinking, finding that old growth, beautiful mahogany with all the richness of tone in that is what brought me to, this is the story that happens in this. This is about conversations with new ideas and being reflective in there and thinking about music and letting your mind fill up with the muse that comes from hearing music. So now with this idea in mind, there becomes these organizing principles from the wood Scandinavian furniture. And then there's sort of an idea of what are the star places of the room. There's a fireplace in there. So now you're oriented off the hearth, what works off that. I have a grand piano that'll be off in the corner. And we don't want to do too much more. You know, I think a good house should last, and therefore we don't really own it as much as we are stewards of it. And we want to respect it and carry it forward. And as you restore a house, we talk about having ghosts, and the ghosts come back. Keep a hold of that doorknob that's 100 years old. You're going to have a feeling of having a whole lot of company. Speaking of company, don't make your story, don't make that about how you're going to impress other people. Make your story about how you want to feel in the places you're in. And if you get connected to that, then your house will be true. And when it's true, then it becomes eligible to other people. You're not putting on a show. You're not being performative. You are in a state that is authentic. And in that place, it becomes inviting.
That was Stephan Jenkins. Check out Third Eye Blind's recent Tiny Desk concert on npr.org. Welcome back to This Old House Radio Hour from LAist and APM. I'm your host, Jen Largis. Each week, our home repair hotline lights up with calls from listeners looking for guidance on their home projects. Sometimes there's a clear right answer, but more often, you've got options. And every option comes with trade-offs. We're here to lay out the pros and cons so you can figure out what fits your home, your timeline, and your budget.
Hi, this is Steve in Cleveland, Ohio. The wife and I are looking to upgrade our kitchen, and we are deciding between a gas and an induction cooktop. We want to know if induction is really worth it over a gas range. Thanks.
Joining us to go over the pros and cons and to find out which option is right is Ross Trathui, a building engineer for This Old House. Hi, Ross.
Hey, Jen. How's it going?
Good. So, Ross, what's the main difference between a gas versus induction range?
Yeah, so with natural gas or propane in a regular gas cooktop or gas range, you actually have gas flowing into a burner, and you have basically a spark that creates that ignition where you have enough energy to create that flame. You got that nice blue flame. That blue flame, obviously creates heat. It also creates byproducts of combustion, and that heat basically goes to the pot. Let's say you're boiling water. It's going to heat up that pot, and then it's going to heat up that water, and therefore you get boiling water. And so with induction, it works very, very differently. You're actually using electricity, so there's no gas in an induction cooktop. And so what you're effectively doing is running electricity through a set of induction windings. Think of like copper wires that are kind of wrapped underneath a ceramic plate. And so your pot goes on top of that plate. And basically, when you run electricity through those induction windings, it's like charging your cell phone. But what it does, it basically induces a current in your iron pot. So it has to contain iron. So this is going to be stainless steels. This is going to be, some of your enamel, cast iron, etc. Something that has iron in it, and that is that iron molecule is what gets excited, and that's what creates that friction, generates heat, and then heats up the water. So it's apples and oranges. It's a completely different process in terms of how they both work.
And when you're going to buy pots and pans at the store, there's going to be a clear marking somewhere that tells you whether or not they're right for an induction cooktop specifically.
That's right. Yep. It will tell you, it should tell you in the box. And if it doesn't tell you, you can always do the magnet test. You take a magnet. If it will magnetize to that pot or pan, then you know it will work with induction. If it doesn't, then it's obviously not going to work. So aluminums do not work. So any of your aluminum cookware would have to be replaced. And some of your stainless steels are very low in iron, so don't actually work well with induction.
Okay, so important to get the right pot and pan. And besides induction being faster as it heats up, what are other performance differences between the two?
A gas cooktop is about 40% efficient, where an induction cooktop is about 80% efficient, just round numbers. And the reason for that is induction is targeted. It goes after the pot, where when you have a gas flame, some of the heat is lost to the kitchen or to the area around it that doesn't make its way to the pot. And so induction inherently is twice as efficient. So if we're just going on efficiency and heating up water, induction is going to win all day. Now, there are, of course, other pros and cons, right? So one is induction cooktops run on electricity. You need enough amperage to actually run that. So most induction cooktops that are built into the kitchen countertop are going to be 30 amp or 50 amp at 240 volts. So they're two-pole, an L1, L2, two-pole 30 or two-pole 50, depending on the size of the cooktop. So that could be like an electric dryer, type of, amperage. So it is significant, and you have, if in a retrofit in an existing house, you got to get the wires there, so that might be cost prohibitive, and it might be tough to retrofit in kind of after the fact. Sometimes it's really easy, sometimes much harder to do. They do make induction countertop ones that can rest, that are portable, that can rest on the countertop and just plug into a regular 15 amp, 120 volt, outlet. But the general, built-in ones that we're talking about need that electricity. So that is one downside.
Does induction feel hot if you're to the touch?
So one of the other byproducts is that induction is safer because it doesn't have the flame. The flame gets up over 300 degrees in gas. Induction will get up over 200 degrees. But the thing about it is that there's no open flame, so I could actually have a piece of paper between the pot and the ceramic induction cooktop, and I could boil a pot of water right through a piece of paper. So that you can't do, obviously, with gas. The other thing is, as soon as I take the pot off, that cools down really fast. So it might go from mid 200s, and it's going to start to cool off really, really quickly. So it's obviously safer, cools down faster, and it's easier to clean up, right? You don't have to remove the gas, cooktop to clean it. It's all one surface that's uniform.
So you're telling me I can burn my kids' dinner twice as fast. I'm really good at that. All right. So getting back to the amount of energy, what is the energy difference between induction versus traditional?
Electricity is measured in kilowatt hours, right? That's like what your electric bill gets billed to you in. Gas is billed, traditionally, natural gas is billed to you in therms, right? Or kind of CCF is another way that it's billed to you. And so they are two different metrics, but they both measure the same thing, which is energy. So if I have gas flowing into a home, I measure that in therms or CCF. If I have electricity flowing into a home, it's measured in kilowatt hours. And so when we look at the efficiency of induction versus gas, and we put them on a level playing field, meaning we compare them in the same units, that's where we're going to see induction be about twice as efficient as gas. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier is that the gas cooktops do run or are able to operate in a power outage, where an induction cooktop would not be able to run in a power outage. So that's something to also be aware of as a negative there. But less ventilation requirements. So if you look at most of the induction cooktop manufacturers, they look for like 300 CFM of exhaust ventilation for the kitchen hood, where a gas, all else equal, a gas might be 2 times that, might be 600 CFM of ventilation air. So we can get away with, basically lowers amount of ventilation air in terms of the kitchen exhaust system. So a lower ventilation rate means my heating system and cooling system don't have to work as hard, and the ductwork is smaller, the fan wattage is smaller, et cetera.
And what are some things you think our audience should know about these two options? Anything we missed?
I want to make sure that we are not overselling or overpromising technologies, where there's a time and place for everything. And I think induction will be the future of how we cook in our kitchens, especially with some of the new technology that's coming out with is induction that's built into underneath the countertop. So I think about like micro apartments and smaller, kitchens where countertop is a premium. If you've put in this nice, beautiful quartz countertop, I don't need to find a 3-foot space for a 36-inch cooktop of any kind where it could be built in underneath the quartz countertop in that example. And I could put my pot right on the quartz countertop, boiling water, right next to where I'm chopping onions, right? So I don't have to worry about finding that space for that large range like I used to before. So I think this is going to change the way that kitchens, especially in micro apartments and smaller apartments, are designed and thought about. I think interior designers and decorators have now new tools to play with. And I think that cooking with gas, I think, will eventually be phased out. It will take many, many years for that to happen, but that's my crystal ball projection.
Yeah. Well, no leaving the house and wondering if you shut off the stove properly before you left. Ross, thanks for being here. This has been incredibly helpful.
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
If you need help deciding which way to go on your next project, call This Old House Radio Hour's Home Repair Hotline at 877-864-7460, and we'll help you break down the pros and cons. We're nearly at the end of the show, which means it's time for the Simple Fix.
My name is Lee Gilliam. I am a landscaper for the show, and this is my Simple Fix. Are you noticing weeds in the garden and you don't have any herbicides? Here's my Simple Fix. Get yourself a spray bottle and add 2 cups of water, a shot of dish detergent soap so it's sudsy, and then I also want you to put down a cup of vinegar and a tablespoon of salt. Shake that up, get it stirred up really well. The salt and the vinegar will dehydrate the plant, and the dish detergent will help make the solution sticky to the plant. Add that down on any weeds that you see on the property, especially in the bed. Try not to get it on your lawn, but like on your driveway cracks, sidewalks, things like that.
We'll see you next week on This Old House Radio Hour. Our show is distributed by and co-produced by LAist Studios and APM, American Public Media. This Old House Radio Hour was created and produced by Ember 20. Listen to new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday on your app of choice. You can follow This Old House on all the socials at This Old House, all one word. We'll see you next week.